Moon Pops. Today we're going to demonstrate and predict the sequence of events in the lunar cycle. I'm going to play a song and I would like that you list the phases of the moon and ways that help you remember them.
Oh, oh, oh. It goes new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases. Oh. You see in the sky most nights, moon looking so fine, so bright. But it doesn't make its own light. You can see it because it reflects the sun's light. It don't really ever look the same. 8 different phases and they all have names. If you wanna know why, then listen. It depends on the moon's position relative to the earth. This is how it works. New moon phase is where we start first. When the moon between the earth and sun. Look in the sky and you see none of it lit. But if you wait a bit, you slowly begin to see more of it. Until we have a toenail-shaped crescent. Ain't this a great way to learn a lesson? It goes new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases. Oh. And we slowly start to see more till we had the first quarter, 1/4. And even though it's looking half lit, it's a quarter way gone around its orbit. Now let's get down to business. The next phase up is called a waxing gibbous. If the right side lit up, you know it's waxing. Think about the first letter in relaxing. And we keep on moving to the full moon, all lit up pretty like a showroom. The sun, earth, moon line up in a straight line, so the whole side lit up most of the time, except the lunar eclipse when the moon is under the shadow of the earth that we call a penumbra. The rest is pretty much the same. Reverse the order, change wax to wane. It goes new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases. Phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. The moon takes 29.5 days to change from the first to the last phase. Its gravitational pull causes our tides, along with the sun low and high. Apollo 11, first man on the moon, yeah, US reppin'. Now try to identify the phase of the moon that you see in the sky.
So for today's activity, we're going to watch the following video to answer the next two slides.
Hey kids, this is the Moon Pop Lab. Our sun will be represented by the heatland, the Earth is represented by Mrs. Garcia, and the moon phases will be represented by the Moon Pop in Mrs. Garcia's hand. This model matches the model in your lab with the light source on the right-hand side. We will start with a new moon position. This first position finds the moon in between the sun and Earth. Because the moon is blocking out the sun's reflection, the moon looks almost completely dark in the sky. As the moon revolves counterclockwise, the sun's reflection can start to be seen on the right-hand side of the moon. This second position is called the waxing crescent. The third position is called first quarter. This looks like the entire right half of the moon is illuminated from our point of view. The fourth position is called the waxing gibbous, and it is more than halfway illuminated. Gibbous means bulge, so the moon is close to being full in this position. Position 5 takes us to the complete opposite side of the Earth. This is your full moon. The Earth is in between the sun and the moon at this point, and it creates that beautiful, full, illuminated circle. Now the moon begins to shrink, or wane. So position 6 is the waning gibbous. It is still more than half illuminated, but it is on the left side now. Position 7 illuminates half of the moon we see from Earth on the left side. This is known as the last quarter. Finally, the moon shrinks down to a waning crescent in position 8, and it looks like the letter C in the sky. A few days later, the moon is back in position 1 and ready to start the cycle again. Okay,
Okay, now we're going to answer some questions based off of that lab. So for our connection, which numbered diagram represents the student modeling a full moon? Now remember, in order to have a full moon, it's when the moon is behind the Earth. So if we look at position 4, here's the sun, here's the Earth. This would be the full moon, where we have 100% illumination. The whole moon is fully illuminated. If we look at this position up here, when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and you're on Earth looking up at the moon, it's a new moon where you see 0% illumination. So let's summarize. New moon is in between the Earth and the sun. It's where you have 0 illumination. So when you look up at the sky, there's no illumination. Over here, where you have the sun, the Earth, and the moon is behind the Earth, you have 100% illumination, a full moon. So for our exit, what we're going to do, we're going to use the flashlight as the sun, and here's the Earth U. And when you're on Earth and you look up at the sky, we're going to talk about the moon's illumination in the 8 positions. We're going to start with the new moon position. So let me minimize. Remember my trick I taught you guys? We're going to sniff our moon phases. S stands for sun, N stands for new moon, E for Earth, F for full moon. So SNEF, SNEF. So if you do these phases first, you'll be in good shape. So let's do that. So a new moon is where you have 0 illumination in the sky. So I'm going to put new moon and drag my vocabulary word over there as well. So I have the sun, the new moon, the Earth, and then when the moon is behind the Earth, I have a full moon. Now that's already illuminated, but we could drag the other piece up there as well. So we call that a full moon. So remember SNEF, sun, new moon, Earth, full moon. Now, the moon travels in an orbit that's counterclockwise, so we have to go in this direction. So we want to name our phases in our next places. Now, another trick is to understand is that your crescents come before and after a new moon. A crescent is your little croissant shaped. So when we go from a new moon to a full moon, we wax, we gain illumination. So if it's completely black in the night sky, we start off with just a little illumination. So we need to have light on the right in order for this to be a waxing crescent. Okay, so I'm going to drag this over. And waxing again because I'm gaining light on the right, and crescent for that little croissant or banana shape. Now, when I'm in position 3, I'm going to grow in illumination a little more. So I'm half illuminated, and that's light on the right. So I'm going to look for my model where I have light on the right-hand side, and I call this the first quarter. Now, quarter, because it takes from a new moon to a first quarter 1 week, 7 days to go from this position to this position. Remember, it's going to take the moon 1 whole month to do a complete orbit. And we know that there's 4 weeks in a month. So here's 1 week, here's 2 weeks, here's 3 weeks, here's 4 weeks. Another way of saying it is every 2 moon phases is 7 days. Okay, well, we're still waxing, we're still growing in illumination on the right. So now I'm going to be a little more than half, and I'm a waxing gibbous. Waxing because I still have light on the right hand side, and a gibbous shape because it's more than half. It's bulging or a football shape. Then I have a full moon. So let's rewind. So I'm waxing, I'm growing in light on the right hand side until I'm full. Once you have a full moon, you're going to lose illumination on the right. And we only lose a little at a time until we go back to that new moon. So I'm going to lose light on the right this time. So I'm going to lose a little light on the right. So losing a little light on the right, I'm still a gibbous shape in illumination, but I'm a waning gibbous. Waning because I'm losing light. I'm no longer waxing. So it was waxing until we were full, and now we wane. So we want to lose a little more of illumination. So we lose about half our illumination, and we're at a third quarter. Okay, sometimes this third quarter is called a last quarter. And why would it be a third quarter? Because look, this takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's why we say it's a third quarter or a last quarter. And then lastly, we're going to have a little more loss in illumination. So we're going to be at that crescent shape, and we're a waning crescent. Okay, again, let's summarize. Your crescents come before and after a new moon. Your gibbous shapes come before and after a full moon. You have your first quarter, last quarter. We must go counterclockwise when we do our phases. Okay, and here's some things to help you remember. Quarter means half of a moon. Waxing, right side is illuminated. Waning, right side of moon is covered in shadows. I like to say losing light on the right. Crescent is less than half the moon. Gibbous is more than half the moon. And then lastly, let's answer these questions together. So here it says, as the moon orbits around Earth from position 1, the amount of illumination, what? So let's go back to our slide. Here's position 1, 2, 3, 4. So as we go, we increase in illumination until we're full. So as the moon orbits around Earth from position 1, the amount of illumination increases. Let's drag and drop the next phase in the lunar cycle in each group and write the name of the missing moon phase. So here we have a full moon, and then you can see you're losing light on the right. So just a little. So we are a waning gibbous, and we're going to lose a little more light. So we'll be a third quarter. So losing light on the right. Okay, so losing light on the right. Looks like this position here because we're losing light on the right, and we are a waning gibbous. Okay, and then let's look at our next position. So you're a new moon, 0 illumination, and you're going to start to get light on the right, but just a little at a time. So just a little light on the right would be your waxing crescent, right? And then you have your first quarter. So let's name this phase. This would be a waxing crescent. Okay. And then over here in this position, we have light on the right, then more light on the right. So I would imagine this would become a full moon where we're 100% illuminated. Okay, and then just summarizing that so we can see. So what you have is a full moon. After a full moon, you lose a little light on the right, then you lose a little more light on the right, and you are this would be a first quarter. So we made a little mistake here. So what we want to do is name this phase that's in the box. So what we have here is going to be a third quarter. So let me erase that. Or last quarter. So I'm going to put third quarter, okay, or last quarter. And let me present. All right, that looks better. And then over here, we're at a new moon, and then we grow in illumination on the right a little bit at a time. So here we are a waxing crescent because we are growing in illumination on the right, light on the right and crescent shaped. Then here, what do we have here? So we have light on the right, more light on the right, and then we would be a full moon. The reason the moon seems to change shape as it orbits Earth is, okay, because it's gaining illumination, then losing illumination. It's the amount of reflection of the sun's rays.